I'm curious too, because you mentioned your kind of threshold for being convinced of God now has increased, and also being convinced of any religion being true. What would it take for you then for God to be real? Are you one to say that it would convince a legitimate supernatural encounter with God to convince you, or is there something even lesser than that of evidence that would convince you as well?
Obviously, it would be the former. It would need to be a legitimate, bona fide biblical miracle. I would need a direct, actual encounter. It could not be I'm doubting Thomas on steroids. And so if you really wanna persuade me, then show up and persuade me. And if you are real, and if what these stories say are real, and you love me, I'm begging you to show up. I need you to show up. I'm telling you, if you made me, this is the mind you gave me. I'm telling you, I need you to show up. And if you show up, here's the thing. If the texts are implying he really knows all things, he knows what it's going to require from me. And so I'm saying that I would need that encounter of a real, there's no way around this. This is legit. This is divine. And at that point, bro, I will become like, I will go full on hardcore. Like there's just no, it's like that famous Ill of Mind Hobson rap song, Hobson 7, when he's crying out to
Yeah.
God. And he's saying, if you show up to me now, I'll be all for you. Like that is real. I mean, I don't care if the world thought I was an idiot. I already lived like Bubble Boy. The thing is, I don't think it's real. I think these are stories. So I think there's a lot of good stuff we can learn from these stories, but I don't think these stories are true. True meaning actually happened. They're not historical in my view.
Would you prefer if the Christian story was true?
So this is another one of those questions where we would need to like compare to what? Because if the Christian story is that there is a hell for people who don't believe or a punishing place if you aren't in Christ, then no, I don't wish this was true. If the good part of Christianity is all you're saying, I mean like a heaven, bro. I mean like it's going to be all good and it's going to be okay. And the sufferings you go through in this world, they're not for nothing. And down the road, God will reveal that to you. But no, there's no hell. Everyone gets saved in the end. Then yeah, I would love for that to be the case. Unfortunately, that doesn't seem to be what Christianity has been teaching, and it doesn't seem to be what these texts, and I don't think there's one message, it's not univocal, but there's a lot of stuff in them that doesn't look optimistic for people who don't believe. And so, yeah, it depends on the question and how you want to phrase it or
Yeah,
compare it
yeah.
to.
Have you thought of like I guess like an ideal world that would be the best case scenario in terms of like what kind of we just mentioned the whole people go to heaven but there's no hell necessarily, like maybe kind of some kind of thing where God made it so everyone or so most people go to heaven, but those that are I guess seen as bad from even a human sense morally are only going through a form of like annihilationism.
Yeah, I've thought about that too, and it's still like it's a rough one for me to even think, "Oh, that's good. Just let them not exist any longer and just wipe them out." That means the party ends. Part of the point, I think, of my personal, like, wish there was more, I wish the magical world was real, is that the party doesn't end, right? And then part of me also feels like when it says "Rest in peace, RIP," I wanna rest in peace. Like, I want it to be sleep forever, I'm comfortable kinda thing. Sometimes life's so hard. But, again, I think some of these ideas are produced by believers who are trying to sometimes soften some beliefs and make them not as rough and scary as they sound, the fire that burns and the smoke that comes up day and night forever and ever. Let's make that annihilationalism. Let's try to make it to where they just no longer exist anymore. Um, all the problems with all these things is why didn't he just make the world this way to begin with? You know what I mean? If that was the case for me, it's like, why would you allow, and I could list the atrocities that are happening between men and little girls or little boys, the diseases and the harm and the pain and the problem of evil that we see in the world that we live in, and it's not all produced by men. It's not all mankind that is produced. Some of this is natural phenomena that occurs from natural disasters to illnesses and things like that. And if the answer we have to tell ourselves is, "Don't worry, it's all for a reason, and one day he's going to show us," that doesn't cut it for me. For me, that's not a good enough excuse to hold on to the belief in the thing without the data that backs up to prove that it's there, even though I get why the mind might want to do that. Because take, for example, those stories on the news that break out. Linda Johnson went missing 15 years ago. Well, she escaped from this man's dungeon in his basement in his house, and he had 5 kids with her over the last 15 years, locking her in a dungeon in his home. Now imagine what she went through for 15 years, trapped as a prisoner in this man's home in the basement, being coerced into sexual activity, coerced into producing children for him, offspring from this man. And then what did she do psychologically? How did she go and say, I have to make the suffering and the worst thing that's happening into a good thing? So the brain, she had to survive. So somehow she had to tell herself a story to make it keep it somehow good. This is something that Friedrich Nietzsche was pointing out about Christianity. He called it a slave religion, where the mentality of Christianity is a slave's mindset. It's turn the other cheek. It's, hey, take this, carry it for 1 mile, a Roman soldier would say to a Jew, and then carry it too. Like, it's the humble, and then you'll be rewarded. It's the, I will be the last so that I can be the first. It is the, I will suffer now so that I have the greatest reward when I go where I'm going. And what you do is you take your weakest weakness and you turn it into your strength. So the girl in that basement for 15 years, psychologically, how does she survive? She might transform a philosophy in her own mind that tells her, this actually is good. How do I make this good so that I survive? That's what some philosophers think Christianity is, the struggle of realizing the oppressed and the slaves in the Roman Empire. Like, how do we win against our conquerors, those who dominate us? Well, we embrace our weakness. We embrace the suffering. We make that a good thing. So when you're hurt, that's good. When you go through bad things, that's good. It reverses, I think, our moral compass. And that's where I see the harmful stuff that comes from Christianity. It can be good, but I can see it being very harmful too. It takes bad and it can make it actually rewarding, in my opinion.